take on this issue?
Well, I think Victoria answered all the questions on that, but you know, I don't know enough of that subject to make any kind of determination.
What's your take on this question?
Well, first of all, there are state and there are federal grants that are available to supplement the emergency services that are out there, and I've written numerous grants for such as the CARES Act for staffing. It's called the Firefighter for Staffing Grant.
Speak to that. So when it comes to grants, still taxpayer money, still money that we have to apply to you to come back here, and they're temporary. So when you apply for a grant, it's one-time money for employees, and we've done that. We did that with some of the ARPA funds, and that's going to come back to bite our taxpayers. We hired 13 social workers on the ARPA funds. We hired, I don't know if we hired them, but we put out to hire park officers, and those are also on the grant. So when that one-time money runs out, those people are now on the payroll, and we have to make a decision whether to pink slip people, to lay people off, or to raise our property taxes to pay for those positions now. And people are not in a position to be able, I'm telling you right now, when I'm on the doorstep talking to people, they're at their breaking point.
When we look into the education, we're finding out that we're losing money through voucher system, through educational voucher system, which doesn't help our public schools. So you can't say that you support public schools, but in support of a voucher system that takes money out of our public schools.
We have what's called an education freedom account, where people actually apply based on income levels and opportunity to be have some of their taxes returned to them for the education of their children. It actually is it's not a voucher. They are not handed vouchers that they can spend any way they want. There's a lot of oversight to this. I served in the House Education Committee. I stand behind school choice for all families. And this gives our families more control over their tax dollars and their kids' education. The other way, you wouldn't, this really benefits these 166 kids in Manchester. The majority of them are in failing schools in really difficult neighborhoods in our city. And this is a leg up. And instead of having them segregated by zip code and having them live in poverty, this gives them a leg up for a better education and a better future. And it gives their family opportunities that they wouldn't have otherwise. But I want to be very clear that what we have here is not a voucher program.
Jim, do you have a response to Victoria's rebuttal?
Maybe I used the wrong term, but it is still taking money out of our public school system, which we need to support desperately. The only way we're going to get people out of this problem is to support our public schools. That's what I have to say.
I support public schools. I support school choice for all children. Not all children benefit from a public school system, and it isn't taking money from public schools. They don't own that money. That is taxpayer money. And that money follows that child. That state money follows the child to the school. So if that child goes to a different school, the money just follows them to that school. It is not owned by our district or our schools.
Brief, what's your take on the revenue and expenditures of the Board of School Committee and the school department as an alderman? And also what's your take on the tax cap in relation to school spending?
So I've read that the Board of School Committee, the school administration has proposed a tax cap budget, which is something that we support. Also that there are some changes, again, in any budget process. It's preliminary, and it'll be looked at by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. So I am happy that it's obviously within the tax cap, and we're going to look at it much further, much more in depth.
Now going to Victoria. Victoria, what is your take on the school budget, and what would your take be as an alderman in regard to the school budget?
The one thing about the tax cap is because inflation is so high, this year and the projections for next year, the tax cap is going to be much higher than it was intended to be. I think in previous years, we were around 1.8, 1.9%. This year is going to be over 3%. So the tax cap is one thing, but even staying within the tax cap can be very burdensome to our taxpayers right now. We all got hit with the revals and people are really struggling. When I'm on the doorsteps of our elderly who have already paid for their children to go through the school system, they're really, really in distress over how they're going to make their property taxes. And with inflation, I'm raising 2 teenage boys, trying to feed them, trying to put gas in the car, trying to heat the house, trying to keep the electricity on. All these things are everyday burdens to our citizens. So when we look at something like our school district, which over the last few years has seen a decline in over 1,000 students, and yet we're seeing an increase in spending, right? There's no place in the private sector where you would continue to put money in at this kind of increase when you're seeing a decrease in the people that you're serving in your customers. So when we're looking at the school budget, I think people also need to understand that 189 million is the starting point, because we're also getting federal aid. We're getting other aid for free and reduced lunch students, for students that have IEPs, for students that have 504s. So that's not the full funding. So it's well over $200 million that we'll be spending. We need to look at the fact that with the education freedom accounts, we lost over 166 students. That's a significant sign that parents aren't happy with what's happening in our district. So instead of talking about spending and funding and raising people's taxes to continue this process, we need to really look at the process. What are we doing where our proficiency scores are so low? And I would like to see the conversations be wrapped around curriculum. And is this money going to curriculum? Because it isn't. It's probably not going to new ways to educate. It's probably not going into looking how we can educate better. It's going into more salaries. It's going into more benefits. And when we have a reduction of that many students, we need to start looking at the budget differently and figure out how we fund it differently and how we can pull back some of the spending, because I'm telling you right now, our taxpayers are at the breaking point and they cannot afford to have their taxes go up again. Serve our constituents. And then we were able to find solutions and make things happen. And if you're not willing to look the ugliness in the eye, to find the beauty and pull the city up, into a better way, into a better place, into a brighter future, then we never get there. So I think where we differ is that, Jim thinks that if you acknowledge problems, that's negativity. I think that by acknowledging problems, you're on your path to a better future, to a brighter future. Someone said the critic is the true optimist because they see a better path and a better way. And that's how I see it. I'm an optimist. I believe we can do so much better for our kids, for our city, and for our communities. And I'm absolutely willing to do the work to do it. I've been doing it all along.
Well, first of all, Eddie, the commuter rail has nothing to do with the raise grant.
Page 13 of that grant. Page 13 of that grant.
What are your opinions on mask mandates here in the city and overall? Jim, we'll start with you.
I believe we have to follow whatever the data and the experts tell us to do. I managed the COVID response as fire chief, and all my decisions were based upon accurate data given by the experts at CDC or the State Department of Emergency Management. I'm glad we're at a spot, and I'm comfortable where we are right now with removing mask mandates. But I think we ought to continue to follow the guidance and the data.
Okay, Victoria, your opinion on this?
Yeah, I think it's a little ironic because I know that some of the people that voted to make sure we had mandates still in the city buildings were at Jim's kickoff, and there were lots of people, lots of crowds. I'm glad he had a good turnout, but nobody had a mask on. But when it comes to the kids, we're seeing a lot of damage because of the mask mandates that we had for the kids.
You went last on the last one, so you can go first.
Okay, again, I'm Victoria Sullivan. I'm running for Ward 9 Alderman in the special election. And I just thank everybody for their support going forward. I've only ever put my name on a ballot because I wanted to do what was better for the community, to serve my community, to serve my constituents. And I have a proven track record of being a community leader and being a volunteer in our ward. Again, I thank you all for your support. If you need more information or if you want to help out with the campaign, please reach out to me at victoriaformanchester.com. You can find out what's going on there, and you can sign up to help us out. And if you need anything from me, I think everybody knows how to get a hold of me by now. I was your state rep for 4 years and I really enjoyed serving you.